Extras. Draven has okay charisma and diplomacy, but after grabbing all the important stuff like spellcraft, UMD, Arcana, and other knowledge skills, at this point in the campaign he hadn't scraped together many skill points to put towards other talking skills like bluff or sense motive. What he did have to magnify his best skills and compensate for his deficiencies was a big set of Masterwork tools. See, even if you have read the whole equipment section of D&D 3.5's player handbook, you can be forgiven for not noticing, but under the Tool, Masterwork entry, it specifies that for 50 gold pieces, you can get a tool that gives +2 circumstance bonus to a specific skill. There are already some tools like that with their own entries, Masterwork Thieves tools, Climber's Kit, etc. But it's actually saying that you can have a Masterwork tool for any skill. So, Draven has a stylish hat, giving him +2 bluff, a stylish tie, granting +2 bonus to diplomacy, and when he gets really serious, he can light one of his noxious cigars to get +2 on intimidate checks. Later on, he worked to create an Itaran language phrase book to give him +2 to decipher script checks, and got a subscription to Scry magazine to keep his appraisal knowledge up to date. About +2 worth of up to date. In TDDC number 7, I skipped over Ginaron's Eldritch lab, mostly for time. In reality, the party did check it out, they just didn't spend a lot of time there. The Eldritch lab looked similar to the Fel lab, with the larger style crystal cylinders, but it had the distinction that the containment was actually intact. Some of the tubes were still empty, a couple others were filled partway with dusty remains, but a handful were still occupied, and they were full of goo, eyes, and mouths. When approached, the eyes and mouths leapt into action, as the gibbering mouthers pushed against the sides of the crystal. Mouthers are a relatively weak type of abomination, far too weak to make Eldritch Eyes, for example. But by looking at the tools and making some educated guesses, they figured out that the Itarans were keeping them as part of some kind of experiments to try and farm Eldritch Eyes for teleportation magic, maybe by mutating or enhancing the Mouthers in some way. However, one of the gibbering mouthers used a supernatural ability to turn some of the stone floor near it into quicksand, and when they saw it could do that through the tube, they decided they'd spent about enough time in the Eldritch lab, making sure to relock the door as they left. The Deluvian Empire is a theocracy, and as you might expect in such a society with actual divine magic, the highest-ranking divine magic user is generally in charge of any expedition. But technically, priests are not part of their military chain of command. They give instructions, but ultimately the military commander is in charge of carrying them out, and can overrule them on tactical decisions as long as they are willing to face the consequences if things should go wrong. However, paladins of Blabal occupy a special place in the hierarchy. They start out in the military, but rise rapidly through the ranks, and once they have the military skills, the understanding of command, they're removed from the regular military and given command over special operations. Those who are successful are given a very free rein to follow their instincts, their visions, the will of Blabal. Now, any of you who are old-school D&D people have a certain image of what a paladin is. They are lawful good squared. The guy whose code of honor makes it hard for the rest of the party to do their jobs, even when they're trying to do good. It's pretty obvious that the chaotic evil goddess of slaughter doesn't exactly have the same expectations. The book Unearthed Arcana was not a traditional D&D book. It didn't have a list of classes and spells and feats that it added to the game. Rather, it was more like a selection of house rules to let people customize their characters and help GMs adjust various game rules. One of the sets of options it laid out was for paladins of other extreme alignments, describing the regular lawful good paladin as a sort of paladin of honor. This added the chaotic good paladin of freedom, whose code makes him pretty close to where Little One is headed in terms of his own beliefs. Their counterparts are the lawful evil paladin of tyranny, whose code of conduct is a complicated pain in the ass about maintaining or improving their own authority and the conditions under which they respect the authority of those above them. Yeah, lots of fun. The chaotic evil paladin of slaughter including most Deluvian Paladins, has a much simpler code. Sow destruction and death at all opportunities, and disrespect any authority figure who has not proven their physical superiority over the Paladin. Kua Commander, as you can tell from the name, was a nod to Cobra Commander, especially with the covered face. But I really thought of him more as a mirror image of Captain America, like the evil Paladin version. And I loved the mechanic of throwing his minions in front of attacks. It was so thematically cool, and also made him much more effective without giving him like 100 extra hit points. In fact, I love the way that whole encounter worked out, except for when he missed with his shield, because he rolled like a 2 or something, and that totally could have dropped Draven into the negatives. But it was pretty boss when Little One knocked him unconscious. His guy fed him a healing potion, and then like 5 seconds later, Kua Commander threw that same guy in front of a bone crusher. Pure evil.